Welcome back to this special edition of Newsmakers. My guest is Dr. Agustin Carstens, the head of the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. Well, with that, let me come to a project which is after your own heart and our hearts too, the Finternet. Ladies and gentlemen, is a project which Dr. Carstens and Nandan Nilekani of India have tried to put together. It's an international payment system, payment plus system. Dr. Carstens, first tell us, this seems to be a labor of love for you. Tell us what you have in mind in terms of the Finternet. What is the BIS trying?
Well, I mean, I think, let me make an emphasis on what you said, that this is a payment plus effort. I mean, I think during the last many years, at least a decade, in the different parts of the world, there has been major efforts to incorporate technology into the financial practices. But if we compare that effort with other developments, for example, the development of the iPhone, where you can do many things out of your handheld device, we cannot say that that is the case in financial transactions. You know, I remember 15 years ago, last time, or one of my first times I came here to India, to call to Mexico was almost impossible. Yesterday I called my mother through WhatsApp in 3 seconds. You know, so that's a dramatic development. The same thing could happen, should happen in the payment system. Now, we have made efforts starting mostly through payments. And I think the developments that you have here in India are top of the class. I mean, all what you have done with the DPI and UPI is really remarkable. Now, the financial system is not limited to payments. There is many other transactions, financial transactions, that are important. And you know, here in India, there has been a lot of debate and progress in terms of inclusion, but we measure inclusion by the access that the population have to accounts, sometimes how much they use it. But you know, if you go through the range of financial transactions and you go to more complicated transactions, the figures of inclusion drops dramatically. And a lot of this is just because to bring financial services to the population, especially the most sophisticated ones, are very expensive. Transaction costs are very high. Now, technology can change that, you know. We have, in technology and thinking in a broader sense, technology conditioned a lot the way we organize financial services. Our financial services that are more dominated by concerns of the intermediary or the type of operation. But what I discussed with Nandan, and he was absolutely fabulous in this process, is the fact that we wanted to do a system or build or have a vision, more than any, articulate a vision, where the financial system is concentrated in the individual, where the individual can do any type of transactions with anybody they want, no matter in which location, at any time. Just like the way you use your iPhone. Now, what is very significant is the technology is there. Basically, by using tokenized assets or tokenization of financial assets and creating unified ledgers, you can really build an architecture where, from a technological point of view, this vision can materialize. So, you know, and it has been a fabulous interaction with Nandan. It was an effort of bringing financial minds together with technological minds. So the way this happened is that I wrote a paper presented in Singapore last year. I came to the G20 here in Bangalore. I met with Nandan as a very dear friend, and I said, Nandan, how do you do this bring this into reality. And he said, no problem, we can do this very quickly, you know. So I think in this way, that's also another interesting way where finance can contribute with technology and put something on the table. It's a steep way up.
Yes. At the moment, you still have the SWIFT. You still have to go through several banks, and a transaction between two countries can take several days. Do you see, you know, for instance, India-Singapore transaction happening quickly with India's UPI and Singapore's, I think, PayU or something, or likewise in the US, the Fed now? Do you see that happening where, you know, inter-country transactions can happen quickly?
I think at this stage, something where technology is helping us a lot is that there are many costs in cross-border transactions from the point of view of know your client and anti-money laundering and combating the financial of terrorism. Now that is a task, the surveillance of that's a task that can be digitalized and can be made extremely efficient, even more now with artificial intelligence. So we are cutting costs there. Now, some of the designs of these projects also is trying to make simpler the foreign exchange transaction. That is another leg of a cross-border payment that usually is complex and is expensive. And then obviously the different communications, dispute settlements, and so on and so forth. The nitty-gritty becomes very complex very soon. But we are really dwelling through it, and I think we're making fast progress.
Okay. Well, but there is a political angle to it as well. You know, especially after the COVID and the high fiscal deficit in the United States, the Ukraine war, the derecognition of Russian assets, there is a bit of a scare about dollar as a reserve currency. That also has propelled bilateral, you know, search for bilateral payments without going through you know, the central clearing in the United States. Do you see at all the dollar, the significance of the dollar, or the predominance of the dollar reducing?
I don't think so. I mean, at the end of the day, the dollar has developed the main avenues. At the end of the day, financial transactions depend on the credibility of the currency. And at the international level, there is no more credible and reliable currency than the US dollar. And my strong feeling or belief is that the dollar will prevail as the main payment, main currency in the international financial system.
Okay. Well, to come back to, you know, alternative payment systems, India's betting a lot on the CBDC. We have some kind of retail CBDC, but it's a pilot. Do you see CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, making some headway in terms of country payments?
Eventually, I think CBDC could be used in payments, mostly at the wholesale level. Now, CBDC, at the end of the day, is a different technological representation of money. It's not a new currency, you know. So, you know, so at the end of the day, you have to really conceptualize a CBDC in that respect. Is a more efficient representation of money, but at the end of the day, it cannot change the nature of the currencies that are behind those CBDCs.
Yes, I guess along with Finternet, maybe one day it can make some headway. But CBDCs in India at least were conceived more to draw people away from cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Do you think that threat is over? You know, at one time it looked like it would become a rival mode of payment. Is that something that worries you?
Definitely. I mean, it's a quest where we cannot leave our guard down. I think the main problem is that cyber currencies are represented or presented as a substitute for fiat currency without the attributes of fiat currency. And therefore, many people can have losses as it has materialized. On top of the fact that many of these payment vehicles or these vehicles are used to conduct illegal transactions. Therefore, it's not desirable at all that you have avenues out there where illegal transactions can take place. You know, for example, ransom payments for cyber attacks and narco trafficking, different type of trafficking, and so on and so forth. That's why I think that we really need to put a rein on cyber currencies. It is clear that in many cases, those cyber currencies do not comply with the three attributes of money, which is a good means of payment, a good store of value, a good unit of account. Some have matured and have become an investment or speculative alternative. In some cases, they are being regulated, and so they have found their way into broader financial markets. But I think that we should not allow them to proliferate in a way that can make people incur losses or be deceived.
Okay. Well, I'm running out of time. Just a final question. Would you worry that the way political international relations are evolving, there is a big threat to the growth of world trade? We don't know how the US elections will go, but there are threats of higher tariffs, especially against China or even generally. Would you worry that we are in a space where international trade is threatened and therefore the world economic growth pace?
Yeah, I have to recognize that in the last several years we have seen a fragmentation in the global economy, and that's not good for the world as a whole. So yeah, regretfully I have to say that it is a subject matter that could hinder economic growth and development.
Okay. We do hope the world will move away from the brink if it were to find itself in that position. Thank you very much, Dr. Carstens, for spending time with us at CNBC-TV18. It's a signal honor for us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.